we've had our first proper look at the Red Bull RB22. If you are expecting a radical departure into the realm of science fiction, you might be surprised to find that Red Bull's 2026 Challenger is actually a masterclass in refined regression. It's a car that looks back at the lessons of the last 20 years to solve the aerodynamic puzzles of the future. And frankly, it's bloody brilliant to see a team not overcomplicating things for the sake of it. And here's the real question. Is this conservative approach actually more dangerous than a radical one? Let's start with the most obvious change, the war paint. Max Verstappen has finally got his wish, ditching the matte finish that's been the Milton Keynes staple for years. We're back to a high-gloss blue that screams 2005 heritage, while it looks premium and richer as the marketing blurb suggests. From a technical perspective, a glossy surface can actually be slightly more efficient at higher speeds in terms of boundary layer attachment. Max seems genuinely chuffed with it. And honestly, if the driver feels the car looks fresh, that's half the psychological battle won before they even turn a wheel. But beneath that sparkling blue skin lies the real story. The end of the Adrian Newey era and the start of the Lamechia regime. The RB22 is the first car born from this new management structure, and it bears all the hallmarks of a team trying to prove they haven't lost their technical edge. It's a bold statement, especially considering this is the year Red Bull officially becomes a full-blown manufacturer. No more leaning on Honda. This is Red Bull powertrains and Ford against the world. The suspension is where the technical geeks, myself included, really started scratching our heads. Red Bull has moved to a push rod layout at both the front and the rear. For the last few years, the pull rod front was the must-have for ground effect cars to lower the center of gravity. By switching to push rods across the board, they are clearly prioritizing mechanical platform stability over pure aerodynamic cleanliness at the front. It's a trade-off. They want a car that doesn't porpoise or bounce when the 2026 aero kicks in. And push rods give the engineers much finer control over the heave and roll stiffness. Looking at the nose cone, it's like they've taken a scalpel to it. It's an arrow-shaped cross-section, incredibly narrow at the tip, supported by two delicate pillars that connect it to the front wing. This isn't just for aesthetics. It's about creating the largest possible window for air to pass under the nose. In the 2026 regulations, managing the dirty air from the front wing is even more critical. And this narrow nose is a direct attempt to keep the central flow as laminally pure as possible before it hits the side pods. Front wing end plates caught my eye immediately. They are bent toward the inner edge of the front wheels, which usually suggests an in-wash philosophy. Yet, they feature external winglets designed to generate outwash. It's a clever bit of aerodynamic wizardry. They're trying to shield the front tires from direct air impact, which causes massive drag while simultaneously flicking that messy air wide of the car's body. It's a high-wire act of air management that shows Red Bull isn't afraid to play with conflicting aero principles. Moving further back, the lower part of the nose is heavily sculpted. It's designed to induce a massive amount of airflow into that crucial undercut area beneath the side pods. If you think of the car as a giant vacuum cleaner, this is the intake. They're using the nose geometry to pump air toward the rear, ensuring the floor stays energized. This is vital because the 2026 cars are smaller and lighter, meaning they have less physical surface area to generate downforce. Every square millimeter of the bodywork has to work twice as hard. The side pods themselves look like they've been through a high-pressure shrink-wrap machine. They are essentially a miniaturized evolution of the RB21. The upper profile has an incredibly steep inclination, dropping down toward the floor like a waterfall. This is all about candor effect, using the air to stick to the bodywork and drive it down toward the top of the diffuser. The sheer width of the lower undercut is staggering. It highlights just how much they've narrowed the rear end, creating what Paulo Filicetti calls a second skin over the Red Bull Ford power unit. The radiator inlets have retained that letterbox style that debuted in 2024. It's a design that prioritizes high-pressure air intake without the drag penalty of a traditional scoop. By keeping the inlets thin and wide, Red Bull can feed the cooling system while keeping the rest of the side pod face as slippery as possible. Given that the 2026 power units will generate a significant amount of heat from the increased electrical deployment, the fact that Red Bull can keep these inlets so small is a testament to the cooling efficiency they've developed with Ford. The power unit air intake, the airbox above the driver's head, is another area of intense detail. It's an ovoid shape divided into three very distinct sections. The central heart feeds the internal combustion engine, while the two outer ears are dedicated to cooling the electrical components and the ERS heat exchangers. In 2026, the 50-50 split between and electric power means battery and MGUK cooling is just as important as the engine itself. Red Bull's three-way split shows they aren't taking any chances with thermal runaway. Now, let's talk about the floor, which is perhaps the most surprising throwback on the car. Instead of the complex 3D sculpted venturi tunnels we've seen recently, the floor features a wide series of slits ahead of the rear wheels. This is straight out of the 2021 playbook. These slits are designed to generate a pneumatic seal, essentially using air to create an invisible curtain that stops high-pressure air from leaking under the car. It's a fascinating example of how old technical solutions become relevant again when the regulations shift. The engine cover is wrapped so tightly around the mechanicals that you can almost see the shape of the cylinder heads. It extends toward the rear with a megaphone-shaped section which isn't just for show. This shape helps to accelerate the hot air exiting the car, creating a low-pressure zone that actually helps suck more air through the radiators. At the base of the double pylon supporting the rear wing, there's a horizontally oriented air vent. Another exhaust point for the cooling system that's been placed perfectly to interact with the rear wing's underside. Speaking of the rear wing, the version we saw in Detroit is almost certainly a red herring. It looks very conventional, almost like a placeholder in F1. You never show your hand on the rear wing until you're forced to, because it's the easiest part for rivals to copy. Expect the version that rolls out in Barcelona to have much more aggressive flat profiles and perhaps some trickery with the DRS mechanism to cope with the new active aero requirements of 2026. One detail that I absolutely love is the circular crown-shaped wheel fairings. Unlike the full hubcaps we've seen on other cars, these leave the central portion of the rims visible. This isn't just a nod to the fans who want to see the wheels. It's a functional choice. It allows for better heat dissipation from the brakes and gives the engineers more freedom to manage the temperature of the tire carcass. Tires are going to be a nightmare to manage in 2026 with a reduced car weight. And Red Bull is clearly looking for every thermal advantage they can find. My perspective: the RB22 is a car that doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. It just tries to make the wheel turn more efficiently than anyone else's. It's a realistic base, as the analysis says, but it's a base that's been built with an incredible amount of forensic detail. They haven't gone for a silver bullet solution. They've gone for a holistic package where the nose, the suspension, and the floor all work in perfect 2021 style harmony. So, will the RB22 bring the title back to Milton Keynes? It's too early to say for sure, But the level of detail revealed so far suggests that Red Bull hasn't missed a beat in the transition. They've addressed Max's aesthetic complaints. They've tackled the 2026 aero hurdles with a mix of old-school logic and new-school packaging. And they've built a foundation that looks incredibly racy. If Lando Norris thought winning the title last year was hard, he hasn't seen anything yet. Number 3 is coming back for his crown, and he's bringing a high-gloss push-rod suspended rocket ship with